Well, welcome to another episode of Dad's Old Car. In this episode, we go up to Kumeu, where they're having their car and hot rod show, and that was last weekend. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and talk to a few people about their cars and about their dad's car, of course, and we'll talk to Ken, one of the organisers of the event. So let's go to Kumeu. With me is Ken, and Ken, welcome to our little show.
Oh no, welcome to our little show. Your show is absolutely enormous. Mine is just on a little square box. Oh yeah, but you've got a lot of travel on your show, you know, and it's like, oh my God, really? It's like having you here, honestly, it's like we've hit the big time.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God, like, that's built with a heather, mate. Having you here is a great honour, I think, because the fact is you're a legend, and now you're getting into the car scene. I'm going, I used to watch you doing the tractors one, you know, and I thought, and the fishing and all that, and I used to sort of like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool, because it was like Kiwiana, you know, and it's like a Kiwi sort of carry on, you know, and I thought, that is so cool, and I always followed it, you know.
Yeah, oh, good.
And no, I think, thank you for coming along, you know, and wanting to come along.
So, when did this start?
29 years ago.
29 years ago.
So, and it's growing, mate. It was in a little paddock, and then it was the next paddock, and then it was the next paddock, and it was like
now it's all the paddocks.
All the paddocks, yeah. We've actually. We're too big. We don't have any rules as such as car clubs, so what they do is they get together, form a car club, and then they camp together, campers is that's their plot of land. So they can all come and go whenever they like, you know.
Yes.
And
they've got a barbecue and
yeah, that's right.
Drinks and whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And somewhere out of the sun.
Yeah, well that's what they do, you know, and they all converse. It's like because we've been going so long.
Yeah.
All their kids are coming along, and now their kids are now got cars and all that. And now their grandkids are coming along, little when they were kids. So the thing is that it's just a safe environment, and it's a lot of people here, and a lot of people enjoying themselves, it's. Yeah, I know.
I was just looking at that, and when we were kids, they had Mark I Zephyrs.
Oh, that's right.
And around about the Austins, Morrises, and things like that. And we'd put a rope on the tow bar out of Mirai Beach and a sack.
Yeah.
We'd sit on the sack. And they'd tow us around the bloody beach.
Well, we used to do the same, but we'd find an old bonnet, tie the bonnet to it, you know, and then realise that when you fall off the bonnet, it's a bit scary. But we used to do the same thing, you know. It's like we're all like, how's this? I was that guy. We've got a drift car here, and I says, oh, can you put it in the show? He says, really? I says, yeah, why not? And he goes, oh, but we're drift cars. And I says, look, married fella, but he's quite high up on the drift cars. I says, look, if it wasn't for us hot rodders, you wouldn't be drifting.
No.
And he goes, what do you mean? I says, well, we used to get in our old cars, or Zephyrs or whatever, and Cortinas and all that, and try and hang it around the corner, you know, until the tyres said enough's enough, and sort of, that was it. But you guys are doing it professionally now, so it's no different, you know. It's like
just improved.
Yeah, it's like the horse and cart, and then all of a sudden somebody had to modify the cart, and then the horse is no good, so let's put 2 or 3 horses, and now you've got blown injected cars behind me, it's Commodore, because you can, you know. It's like, well, why'd you do that? Because I wanted it, you know. And we don't have any rules here, like cars come unregistered, unwarranted, like, you know. And then we've got a $500,000 Pantera in the show shed, and it's like, New Zealanders, some people came to me from America and they could not believe the amount of cars here that are rare. And what happens is the Kiwis go to the States, bring the car back that is cheap for them. But all the American guys are buying all the Cruiser cars. Now those cars
that nobody wanted
are now like sought after, and we picked it first. And it's like, really? You know, it's like, However, everybody enjoys the place, and as far as we're concerned is that we only open the gates.
Oh, fair enough.
It's like you with your fishing, it's like you put the line down, hey, the fish has the choice to either bite it or not, you know, it doesn't know. And that's the same thing here, and it grows all the time because the fact is that we're user friendly and those people come along because it's their event. It's not our event, it's theirs.
Next up, I remember the Nash cars. They were like Studebakers. They were completely different. And there's one at the Kumeu show. So let's take a look at this, 1951. Just going back into New Zealand history, when I was a boy, I remember the Nash. And in particular, there was a car called a Nash Rambler, which is just a little car, you know, and it was just very, very cute, but it sort of had the same effect as on the front of it, there's no actual wheel arch, and the wheels turn inside those mud guards, which is very unusual. But for Nash, that was the highlight. That was what was flash about this particular car. And in 1951, this one came to New Zealand. It's a Nash Ambassador Super Airflite. A big, long, complicated name. This one's actually for sale, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But great big long bonnet. Has probably got a 6 in it, flathead 6. Great big, enormous grille and bumper. A very elaborate little logo on the front there. And if I come down the back here, there's enormous room in this car. It's a 3-speed overdrive, which means you pull the back for first, up for second, down for third, and then back towards you and up, and that was reverse. Another right at the back here. In the back here, there's a cute little boot, but for the size of the car, you'd think it would be a bit bigger. But however, it's not. And so you come down the side here. It's got an enormous back window that's got a little locking device here that means it's open. So I'm told that was for smokers back in the day. A lot of people smoked, and so you open up the back window and all the smoke goes out of the car. This part of the door looks like something from 1948-49. The Dodge people had a shaped door like that. I don't know if we can get it. Yes, it's open, it's great. And sitting in the driver's seat, there's a great big huge bench seat that you can get the whole family in. Now there's the dash looks like a headlight. So the big huge steering wheel has got an interesting horn ring plus the logo in the middle of it. And in front of that, as I said, there's the headlight dash, for want of another word. So if you look at this dash here, it looks like a headlight. It's got the speedo, the oil, the temperature, and amps, and plus there's a speedo that sort of goes around, but it all looks like it's in the shape of a headlight. Interesting brake here. You sort of pull the brake out and turn it up, and that locks it in. It's got a choke starter. The dip switch is on the floor, and looks like there's another switch on the floor as well, which I'm not quite sure what would be for. And there's a little vent in the front that lets the air come in, and it's also got an aerial. So in the door we've got a window winder, we've got a door handle, and this little winder here opens up the little quarter light to let the smoke out or the air in. Now let's have a look at the bonnet, underneath the bonnet. In the 1950s, an American cars often had a spring arrangement that just holds the bonnet up, so you didn't need to put a stick under it to hold it up. It just held itself up. And if looking at that engine, it's an overhead valve, spark plugs. These little rubber pieces is probably to sort of stop the static, I guess. But it looks like a basic Nash engine. An interesting exhaust pipe that collects up all the exhaust, goes around there and then back down to the back of the car. But an interesting engine, interesting wheelbase, an interesting engine bay, plenty of room, awesome. Just shut that. Now just to finish with this old Nash, on the front here they've got the little chrome light covers, and on the top there's a little white piece of plastic. And I guess if you're looking from the steering, you can see the white plastic, the other one's missing on that side, but you'll be able to tell where the lights are going. And finally, this is for sale. The number is 027 272 0115. So there it is. If you're interested, give the guy a call, and it should be a great project. These mudguards, as I said, the wheels are underneath the mudguard, you can't see it. But if you had one of these in the South Island, the snow would clog up under these, and you get to the point where you can't actually turn the wheel because there's so much snow under there, it sort of jams it. And I guess that was one of the things they didn't think about when they made these particular mudguards. But there she is. Isn't she beautiful? When I was 15, 16, I got a job with the Whakatane board mills, and that was at the Matahina village, which was 11 miles south of Titeko. And my job was with the nursery gang, which meant you walk for miles, sort of thinning out little pine trees, planting pine trees, and generally enjoying yourself. But the mode of transport was Land Rovers. Their Land Rovers were sort of, probably the oldest one was a Series 1, with the little pedals that go into the floor, and they had a 58, a 59, and the new one was a 1960. So there's a man at the Kumeu show who's got a Land Rover. It's a sort of younger than one I was used to, but it was just interesting. Land Rovers are in my blood back in the day, so let's have a look at this Land Rover. With me is Philip, and Philip, welcome to our little show. It's called Dad's Old Car.
Dad's Old Car.
And speaking of Dad's old car, what do you remember about your dad's car when you were a kid?
My dad's English, and we had Rovers, you know, the old 3-litre Rovers, and then we had Land Rovers. And as a farm boy, we'd drive around the paddocks, and I almost fell out of them a few times. The door wouldn't be closed properly, and it was a great old thing. And we were always fixing them. So as a young child, I always learned how to fix up the old cars. And my dad passed away a few years ago, and as a tribute, I got one and I did it up for him.
Good. What year is this?
This is a 75.
Oh, okay.
So this is a Series 3 Land Rover.
Right.
And it's a special one for a few reasons. It's one that Ely Freelander, the legend himself, built out of 100. They fitted funny engines to them. This is a Nissan powered one, certified. I've tried to keep the patina. I've just done a few subtle mods because it's been customised. It's got beautiful interior, custom interior, a big motor, and I call it my COVID baby because I had nothing to do during lockdowns and stuff, so I was out tinkering every other night, and I really, really enjoy it. They're sought after now, big money. This one, I'd like it to go to a good home, but I enjoy driving it, and I've got my uncle with me, and he drove it up here today. He's in the 70s, and he loved it as well. He's an old Land Rover boy.
Can you tell me your mobile, and I'll just throw it up on the TV, somebody might see it.
Yeah,
that's me.
So it's easy peasy. It's 0275 744 533.
Philip.
Yep, and I'm Phil T. I'm the fire guy around this. I'm in West Auckland here.
Yep.
And everyone knows me around here.
Yep.
And everyone knows that I tinker with vehicles. But this is a beautiful truck.
They haven't changed all that much in the design. Because when I was in 1960, I went to work at the Matahina board mills.
Yes.
And they had 50. They had the original ones.
Yes.
You know, the sort of
the little
series,
petrols and stuff.
Petrol
Yep.
with the little, you know, the clutch and the brake sort of went into the floor.
Yep.
And you had your knees up around your bloody neck because I'm a tall guy. But anyway, and then they had the 58, the 59, and then in 61, I think they bought some new ones that looked exactly like this.
That's right,
except
the 2A.
The lights were sort
inside.
of
That's it.
inside,
Yeah, that's the Series 2. I've owned those and I love them to pieces. And I shouldn't sell anything, but in my life, I just like fixing things.
Sure.
And we're at a show today, and people think it's a hot rod show, but don't be mistaken. This is a classic car show.
Yes.
And in anyone's book anywhere around the world, this is a classic car.
Sure.
And to find one like this, you've got a gem here. It's a beautiful little car.
Can we have a look at what your engine?
So what we've got here is a Nissan LD28 diesel, which was factory fitted from Land Rover in Henderson. It's a certified wagon. It has its low volume cert. This one has a very big turbo on it. New gearboxes, new diffs, new brakes. Everything is very nice. But this was originally fitted back in the 90s from Land Rover, and this is one of 100 that they built. And there's not many survivors, but this is a very nice example.
And all these pipes, that are all part of the turbo?
So this is all part of the turbo, yeah. The Nissan could take a turbo, but it was a too powerful engine to be in a car in Japan. But as a diesel boat engine or a generator, they were turboed from Nissan.
Wow.
So it's very easy to put this kit onto this wagon and have it complied.
Wow.
So it just bolts on.
Excellent.
So it's a lot of kilowatts, 100 and something kilowatts. And it screams like a race car when it's going.
So it goes anywhere?
But it goes anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's got all the fruit on this one.
Excellent.
I've got custom interior. The interior is immaculate.
Let's have a look at that. So this is the interior. I mean, the dash is slightly different, but it's the same interior. It's got the red knob, the yellow knob, the gear stick.
Yes.
I see you've got something with MG written on it, and
So-
the sticky up bloody handbrake.
Yeah, so what we've got here that's quite special, it's a standard gearbox, and this is a Ferry overdrive that was fitted to these traditionally, just to give them a little bit of more oomph along the highway.
Yes.
The Ferry overdrive from England is quite sought after. So it's a 4-speed gearbox with the split. So you can split each gear and have 8 gears.
Wow.
So when you're in low range, so you technically got 16 gears. The blue, a lot of Land Rover purists will diss me on this, but this is respect to the engine that's in it, the blue stripe on the Nissan engine. And I've got custom interior here. I had made by Traditional Upholstery up in Muriwai here, our local guy Joel, and I just put the blue striping on there as well, just to enhance it, because to me it's been bastardized once before, and so just to do little things like this is it's just in respect of the Nissan motor.
That's awesome.
It's
That's
a beautiful truck. It drives very, very nice.
So there you go, folks. A beautiful Land Rover, and if you're interested, it's for sale. There's Phil's phone number. Give him a call, and I'm sure he'd be glad to hear from you. And Phil, thank you so much.
So, pleasure to see you, and I enjoy the presence and notification that it is in honour of my dad's truck.
Excellent. About 3k north of Geraldine is the Roger Mann Heritage Centre. Well worth a visit. It's open most weekends, and you can visit by making an appointment. To find out more, just call John on 027 246 7466. That's 027 246 7466. I know you'll just love it. With me is the famous Fletch, and Fletch is on Australian TV. He's been on Face TV, and you see him on TV stations all around the world. And
But the thing is, Bill, I'm not famous. George Clooney's famous. You know.
well, I think you're famous.
A few car
if you're
people.
on TV, you're bloody famous.
Oh, well, there you go. I've just always made Classic Restos about the person that I'm talking to. You know,
Yeah.
I don't look upon it as myself. They're the stars, you know.
Absolutely. It is the same with us. It's hearing the stories, getting the history,
Yep.
and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
And the nostalgia.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because all these restos are all just sort of people
Yeah.
reliving their youth. Yeah?
Well, when I first started the show, I called it Classic Restos primarily because of thinking that back then that every vehicle on the show was something that has been restored. But as the years have rolled past, people have been keeping their vehicles as found with the patina. They just do the mechanicals, so it's not a full restoration at all. So really, Classic Restos is one term, but there's a lot of original cars as well.
Absolutely.
And the way it is now in 2023, to pull a car out of a barn and keep it as you find it, and again, just do those mechanicals,
So if
and
it goes,
you've got a real cool car.
absolutely.
You know.
Or truck or whatever else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
Fletch.
Bill, and
you
Bill,
keep up the work.
Now you guys, you're over 1,000 episodes?
Oh yeah, we're over 1,000 episodes of all the stuff that we've done since
Well done.
1997.
Well, congratulations from Classic Restos to you guys. I think I'm 725 and 15 or 16 years now,
Oh,
but
wow.
you've been going since what year?
97.
1997.
Yeah, and previous to that we were doing videos and DVDs and all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I did too, of car shows. Went around, did car shows, DVDs of car shows, and before Classic Restos, that's how what I did myself as well. I think that's what you had to do back then to kind of start and get into it.
And when Sky turned up with the My Sky, that was the day that DVDs died.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So you made a quid out of DVDs, but
Yeah.
all of a sudden they just went,
Make ends meet. Yeah, my word. That's it. Well, been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Bill.
good on you, Fletch.
You're welcome.
There you go, folks. Fletch.
Thanks, guys.
With me is Judith, and Judith, do you remember your father's car?
Yes, I do. More the one when I was a teenager than when we were younger. I know we had Zephyrs, but when I was a teenager, Dad went and got a Leyland P76.
Now that's a car.
That's a car.
Absolutely, that's a car.
It's a big car, but there were 5 children and Mum and Dad, so we needed something to get us all in there. And it was blue, and it was a brilliant car.
These days, people seem to think that the P76 was a bit of a lemon.
Yes, it's got a bit of a joke connotation, but when you've driven one and when you owned one, as for many years as we had it, it was actually I don't ever remember it breaking down or anything.
No.
And I used to drive it a lot because my dad had a tendency of always taking my little Vauxhall Viva and leaving me stranded at the farm on a Thursday or Friday night when we were going to town, so I'd end up having to take the Leyland.
Okay, I seem to remember they were very wedgy, a wedge sort of a shape.
Yes, they were, yeah.
You sort of hammer it into a tree and it'd fall over.
Yes, but when you're a teenage girl and you've got bench seat in the front and a car that size,
You had lots of friends?
You'd have all the girls in it and a couple of boys in the boot, and because the boots were huge.
Really?
Oh yeah, massive, and we just had great fun in it. And Dad would tootle off to town in my car.
And tell me about your car, what was that?
Well, I always wanted a Ford Capri. That was going to be my very first car. And then again, my dad toodles off and comes back to my work and says, I've got you a car. So I go out the back of work. Was it parked in the yard at my work? No, it was parked in the RSA next door because he was going to the RSA after. And I'm looking for a Capri, and I said, I can't see it. And he said, it's the white one with the purple roof. I said, but that's a Viva. And I remember, but that's a Viva. But I love that little Viva, and I had to get the purple roof painted because the seats were red, and it just didn't go well.
Colourful.
Yeah, but yes, he went and got me. He just showed up with this car, which I had to pay for.
I've got you a car and it's $482.76.
Yes, basically, yeah. But that's all right. My friend Karen, she had an Anglia to start with.
With the little slopey window at the back, yep.
But then she got a Ford Capri. So the Viva got left. I drive into town and we'd park her up and then we'd go cruising in the Capri. So I got the Capri in a way. So no, we had, the growing up in the 70s in a country town was,
Fun.
Yes.
Absolutely.